Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's just jump right in, because we're unpacking a really fascinating and deeply moving administrative case study today. We're looking at the nationwide fight against youth addiction, but we're absolutely not just looking at statistics. Instead, we're going to explore the heavy, often heartbreaking, ethical layers that public administrators have to navigate on the ground every single day. It's all about balancing the strict letter of the law with the undeniable human need for compassion.
To really grasp the scale of what we're looking at, we have to start at the macro level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent launch of the nationwide campaign, calling on every citizen to help free our youth from addiction, brilliantly illustrates that this isn't just a medical or health crisis. It's a massive, highly complex socio-ethical puzzle. It's this incredibly tangled web where individual freedom, family responsibility, and the need for state intervention all collide.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the ground reality and Vikas's story, identify the key stakeholders, navigate the core ethical issues, break down the decision matrix, and finally look at institutional reforms.
All right, Part 1, Ground Reality and Vikas's Story. Imagine stepping into the shoes of a district social welfare officer named Anita Desai. Right out of the gate, she is faced with an incredibly difficult case involving a 12th grade student named Vikas. Just a year ago, Vikas's father passed away, forcing his mother to take up domestic jobs just to keep them afloat. Sensing that extreme vulnerability, a local gang swooped in and hooked Vikas with free drugs. Fast forward to the present, and this young kid is not only addicted, but he's been pressured by the gang into peddling small amounts of drugs just to fund his habit and help support his two younger sisters' education.
Now, Anita is on a strict 15-day clock to make a ruling, and she is caught right in the middle of a stark, heartbreaking conflict. On one side, you've got Vikas's mother in absolute tears. She's pleading that sheer desperation pushed her son into this, and a criminal trial will completely obliterate his future. On the other side, the local police officer takes a really firm stance. He argues that showing leniency sends a terrible message to other kids, insisting that the law has to be equal for absolutely everyone.
Which brings us to Section 2. Identifying key stakeholders.
Before any decisions get made, we really need to map out the chessboard here. It's crucial to separate the symptoms from the actual disease. You've got Anita making the tough call, and Vikas and his financially vulnerable family depending on it. You have the police pushing for strict law enforcement. But look at that final piece of the puzzle, the local gang. While Vikas is technically an offender caught in the crossfire, the gang members are the true predatory culprits who intentionally engineered this entire situation.
Let's move to Section 3, Navigating Core Ethical Issues.
Okay, so the biggest concept we absolutely have to grapple with right now is the victim-offender overlap. This is what happens when someone who is deeply victimized by their circumstances or by outright exploitation simultaneously commits a crime. Vikas is literally a textbook example of this. He is a victim of poverty, a victim of sudden tragedy, and a victim of gang exploitation. Yet, technically speaking, under the law, he's a drug peddler. So how on earth should the justice system view a child who was quite literally exploited into criminality?
And this leads us straight into a really profound ethical clash between two completely different types of justice. On one hand, you have retributive justice. This is the police officer's view. Vikas committed a crime, so he simply must be punished for that technical violation. On the other hand, you have restorative justice. This view moves entirely away from just blindly punishing someone and instead focuses on repairing the harm, rehabilitating the young offender, and successfully getting him back into society.
We've also got to weigh the very rigid idea of equal treatment against contextual fairness. Equal treatment says, hey, the law is blind. If you peddle drugs, you get the exact same punishment. End of story. But contextual fairness asks a much harder question. Can true equality even exist when circumstances are so wildly unequal? Shouldn't the justice system adapt to account for the fact that this boy was grieving, impoverished, and actively targeted by criminals?
That takes us to Section 4, the decision matrix.
So stepping back into Anita's shoes, she's basically got three options on the table. Step 1. She could follow the police's advice, file a strict criminal case, brand Vikas a permanent criminal, and ruin his future for good. Step 2. She could listen entirely to the mother, just ignore the case, and give Vikas relief. But that means zero action is taken against the gang, leaving them totally free to trap more kids. Finally, Step 3. She can treat Vikas not as a criminal, but as a juvenile in desperate need of rehabilitation, connect his family to financial aid, and simultaneously launch a fierce, independent police probe against the actual gang. When you lay it out like that, it becomes pretty clear that only the third choice really strikes that perfect balance between upholding the law and showing necessary human compassion.
Going with that third option anchors her decision in a really powerful principle. You've probably heard Mahatma Gandhi's adaptation of the idea, hate the sin, not the sinner. This captures the absolute essence of her choice. We must fiercely condemn the crime of drug peddling. That's the sin. But we have to give the exploited individual, the sinner, a genuine chance at redemption and reform, especially when they are so clearly a victim of circumstance.
But here is the brilliant part. Anita doesn't just have to rely on high-level philosophy here. She actually has the law backing her up. Her deeply empathetic decision is fully supported by the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. This specific legislation actively mandates that minor offenders be treated with a reformative and rehabilitation-centric approach, rather than just purely punitive action. The law itself literally recognizes that children need care and protection first and foremost. Finally, Section 5, Institutional Reforms. Look, saving Vikas is a huge victory, but if we want to stop the next Vikas from falling into the exact same trap, we have to zoom out and fix the structural injustices that gangs exploit. That means we need specialized juvenile de-addiction and counseling centers in every single district. It means setting up early warning and confidential peer reporting systems in schools so we can actually catch this stuff before it escalates. We need to make a crystal clear legal distinction between a victim offender and a standard criminal. And maybe most importantly, we need robust financial safety nets so that economic desperation doesn't push vulnerable families right into the arms of local gangs. Ultimately, this whole case study highlights a fundamental truth about public policy. A genuinely successful campaign against youth addiction goes way beyond strict laws and catchy slogans. It absolutely requires a sensitive administration, one that actually takes the time to understand the deep-rooted societal failures and vulnerabilities that are pushing our kids toward addiction in the first place.
So, as you reflect on this incredibly delicate balancing act our fictional administrator Anita Desai had to pull off between upholding the law and saving a child's life, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to think about. In the incredibly complex fight against youth addiction, can true, lasting justice ever actually exist without compassion? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope you keep exploring these big questions.